So when we deal with the object-oriented programming, OOP, we can refer to Unified Modeling Language or UML, and we can create a class diagram. So the class diagram has three portions. The first is the class name. So the class name, this is the class name. So the class name refers to the what is the entity that you want to create, what are the object that you want to put in this class. So let's say if I have the class name as person, then there are some attributes about person, maybe the person name, the person age, the person address, the person phone number, the person gender, and etc. So we have the instance variables, or we call it data member. So the person have a name. So the name data type is a string. The person has age. The age of the person is int or integer. And there are some methods. Methods means what we are going to do with those data member. Let's say I want to get the name. Then if I get the name, then I will get the string. I want to get the age, so the result will be in the integer. I want to set the name and the age of the person. Then we can say this is void or nothing to deal with the data. It is just a method. So these three things, class name, data members, and methods, it will be in the class diagram. So at the end of this class, when you do the team project, when you do the final project, you need to make this class diagram for your program. So we already have the example, the person class. If you still remember, last week we have a class and we have person. The class person, we just type the class and then what is the name of the class, and then we put the color. And then we have the first function, which is say hi. In this case, we put the self. I think you already know. Self means we want to create an object. So whenever we have an object like say P1, then P1 refers to the self. And when we call the say hi, we will print how are you. So the self P1 refers to this. And then we have another person, let's say person 2. So the person 2 also refers to itself. So if I run this, then P1, say hi. Okay, we have how are you? If I have person 2, person 3, person 2, person 2 dot say hi, then how are you? Person 3 dot say hi, then how are you? Now, there can be a class with argument. What is argument? So in order to create an object, we can define the identifier and call the class. So we have the P1 as one object, but when we call P1, we do not know who is this person. All the person names are the same. So in this case, I do not know who is P1, who is person 2, who is person 3, and so on. Then, how if I want to create something like this one? If I put an argument, Bernardo, then I know that the person 1 has name Bernardo. If I put person with double quote Yahya, then I know that the person who his name is Yahya. So how if I want to call the method using the say hi, and the result will be how are you, Bernardo? Not only how are you. In order to do this one, what is the difference with the previous example? In the previous example, we do not have any information about the name. We don't have any specific information about the class. So we need to put what we call argument. So the argument is automatically embedded into the object, and there is no storage to maintain the argument. So in this case, we do not deal with database, we just deal with the object. So we can have like this one. We can create a class person. So a user can create an instance of the person class using a syntax. So let's look at this one. This is a class, and the class diagram can be seen like this. The person is the class name. And then we have one attribute or one data member, which is name. We have one data member, which is name. And then we have one method, which is say hi. In this example, we have a special name init. Init means initiate. So we want to initiate an object. So this init method serves as the constructor. We call it, this is constructor. So this is to construct the class, to construct an object of the class. So the objective is to establish the state of newly created person object with appropriate instance variable. So if the object has a data member of name, then we want to create the person with a name. If you have the person with name and age, then you can create also another variable. Now let's see. Let me just copy and paste. So in this case, I have a person class. This is a new class. And then I have init. Init means I construct this new object. And when I construct this new object, it is available with one data, which is name. And then if I want to call the method, then I would like to show how are you. And then I use the self. Self means I want to refer to its own object. And then I will call the attribute. So let's say if I have P1 is the person with the name Fernando. Then if I call P1 dot say hi, then the result is how are you, Fernando. Okay. How can it, if you see this one, the init contain of self and name. So whenever you create the name Bernardo, it will be saved into the variable name. And then this variable name refer to the name in this case, and we want to save it into the object that we already created. So if the object name is P1, then the name of the P1 is Bernardo. Okay. Now, if I want to create another object, let's say I want to have P2 and the person name is Yahid. Okay, so if I have P2 dot say hi, then it will show you how are you. Yeah. So this how are you? You need to make comma in order to separate the string and the variable. So the variable means name, but you cannot just use the variable name because every object will have different name. That's why you need to use. And before that one, in the method, for every method under the class, you need to put sub. Okay. So the code creates a data member name using the self name. Okay, so we have self name. And then we have a method, okay, say hi, and we call it this is a class with one argument. So we have one data member, which is name. So the method itself, it contains the person object contains one method and one argument. It means this one. So whenever we call the data member in a method, we need to include self. Okay, so we need to include self. When we want to call the name, then we could say self dot name. If we want to call the its, let's say for example, we have another attribute, then we call self dot its, and etc. Okay, so this is just just a recall. So when you want to call the person name Bernardo, then you put the Bernardo inside of the bracket. If you want to call the park, then you can put inside the bracket with the double quotes. So the data will be something like this. Person one is Bernardo and the person two is park. Okay? And when we call the say hi, then we can get how are you Bernardo. And the argument is now stored in the variable. So whenever you want to get the name, then you can just call the variable name. Now, let's make something more complex. So I have a student object and there can be more than one argument. So for example, I want to create a student and the student have student name and I want to know where is the student address. Let's say I just put city. And then I want to get also the data from the student, which is the score. So let's say the score is 0 at the original state or at the initial state. So the init is student name, student city, and then the score is 0. And for the other method, I would like to get the student name. You can see self. I want to get the student city, self. I want to get the student score. So there is one, oh, sorry, I want to set, okay, set the student score with one argument. And then I want to get the student score. And we use that. So the class consists of two arguments in the constructor. So two arguments in the constructor. There are three data members, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 methods, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the variable score will be initialized as 0 when there is no behavior info. Now let's see. It's up to you whether you want to type or you want to copy and paste. Of course, if you copy and paste, yeah, you don't have the experience to type. Okay, let me type. Okay, when you practice typing, you know what is the correct syntax, what is the wrong syntax. Okay, so let's see. I want to make a class person, class student. So def underbar init underbar, and then I have the self, and then the stew name, and then I have the stew city. So I can have the self. The first data member is stew name, and I put stew name equals to stew name. So whenever I put the stew name here, then it will be saved into the object. And then I have self stew city. It means I want to save the student city. And then I have the self score equals to 0. So the initial value of the score of the student is 0. Now I have another function there. Another function is to get the student name. So I call get, because when I call this function, I want to know this object belongs to which student. Get student name. And then because this is the class, so I need to put sub. In the function, there is a return. So when I call this function, what should I get? And there should be a return. So I want to get the student name. I have another function. I want to get the student city. And I would like to return self student city. I want to get the student score. And I want to return the self student. I want to return the score. So every of the variables should be the same with the variables that you define here. Stew name, then stew name. Stew city, then stew city. Score, score. Okay. And the last method is def. I want to set, okay, set the student score. So set the student score means self, comma, score. I want to change the score whenever I have this class. So I will do the self.score equals to score. It means at first the original score is 0. So during the program, I want to update the score. Maybe after you finish the assignment one, you get the score 80. So I want to upgrade the score into 80. After you do the final exam, you have a new score. So I want to update this score. So I can do the set score. Okay, now I have this class. Okay, so this is the class student. Now, the idea is still the same. With the previous object, which is person. In the person object, you can see that when I create a new person, there should be one object. Let's say this is S1 equal to student. And because we have two arguments in this student, so we need to put two. So I have the student name and I have the student CD. So when we create this object, then the student one or S1, the student name will be B and the city will be Yongin, and then the score will be 0. When I create S2, then the student name will be C, the student city will be Seoul, and the score will be 0. So if I access the method, let's say S1, so I want to get the student name, then the result will be, if I access S2, get student name, so the result will be C. If I have the S1 and I want to get the student city, then the result will be Yongin. And if I have the S2 get student city, then the result will be Seoul. Okay, it depends on the S1 or S. Now let's see. S1 equals to the class student, and let's say B. Okay, let me just put Bob. Okay, and then let's say the city is Yongin. Run, and then I have S2. So it's student, and then let's say the name is Cat. Okay, and then he is from Seoul. Okay, so I can do S1. If you still remember last time, I teach you when you put the dot. Okay, so you can press tab, in the top left, there is tab. So when you put the press tab, then there will be options. Okay, those options mean you can select the get function, you can select get student name function, get to score function, score instance function, instance. So let's say I want to know the student name. Okay, just click this one, and then don't forget to put the bracket. Then I know that the S1 name is Bob. S2. So I want to get the student name. This is also another function. Let's say I want to put the get. Okay. And then after you put the get, you can press the tab. So after you press that, then all functions in the get will appear. So we can see let's say I want to know the name. Then you can press enter and put the bracket and run. So you will see the student name is cat. Now I want to see the score. So S1, I want to see the score, get student score. Okay. The student score is 0 because the initial value has been pointed as 0 whenever you create a new object. Now, I want to set a new score. So S1, we can set, okay, we can set a student score. So the student score, what is it? If you see this one, set student score, you will have one argument, which is the new score. Then you can set student score. So there should be one argument. Let's say I want to put, okay, the student score is 75. After you do this one, then you can call again S1 get student score. Now the new student score is 75. So we want to update the score for S1. The original score is 0, but because the new score is 75, I want to set the new score into 75. And then after I set the new score, then the new score has been updated to 75. Okay. Now let's see S2. S2, I want to get the score. What is the score of S2? It is 0. Because whenever you create a new object, the score will start from 0. Now I want to set a new score of S2. Let's say I want to set 90. Then I will check what is the student score of S2. Then the new score has been updated because I put the score 90. Okay. Now, my questions. I have S3. Can I create only with this one? S3 equals student. Is it okay or error? Is it okay or error? Is error. Why? Because when you create the init, the constructor, it mentioned that you have two arguments, student name and student city. So if you don't have those information, then it will be error. Now, if I want to create student with only name, is it okay or error? Then it's also error because we have two arguments. So you need to put those two arguments in order to create the object. Okay. So let's say here, then it is fine because you have two arguments and you put information. Now, I want to set a new score. I want to set this a new score without any numbers. Is it okay or error? Set student score. Set student score, there is one argument, which is score. So is it possible if I put nothing in the bracket? It will be error. So you need to put at least a number. Okay. So let's say, okay, my score is very bad, 20. And let's see. And okay, it is okay. So you can get the student. Then the S3 student score is 20. Okay. Okay, so this is the explanation. So while assessing the score result 0, okay, it is because the initial score is 0. You need to set the score if it is required. So at the first time when you get the student score, it will start from 0. If you set the student score 80, then After that, when you get the student score, it becomes A. Okay, so that's how we can define the sequence. Now, let's make something more challenging. So when we do with Python, we can connect two different files. Let's say I have a odd even file. Odd even. What is the also touch? Okay. And I want to access this file. So in many cases, objects can be created in a file. The Python file can import other files or object to execute functions. So objects in a file can be executed by calling the file name. So whenever you call a function or whenever you call a library, it means that there is a file name. Alternatively, the file can contain main method so that some functions will run once the file is. So we will also check this one later. Now, let's do step by step. First, let's create a Python file called event.py. So this kind of file creation, you can check to make the Python file. And then in some cases, okay, you may have only text file. So you can create the text file and then rename the file into the name of event.py. And then let's copy and paste the code in the next page. Okay, let me teach you. So I'm going to use this folder so I can create a new things. Yeah, in my Jupyter lab, I can see Python file. If you can see Python file, okay, you can just click this Python file. But if you cannot see the Python file, you can create the text file. Let me just use the Python file. If you create a new Python file, you will see this is untitled.py. So you can see also there is a file in the left panel, untitled.py. Now let's change this file name into odd event. Then you can just type right click on this file and then click rename and then change the file name odd event. Once you change odd event, now you will see that the file name has been changed odd event.py. Okay, so we have the odd event.py. So after we have the odd event.py, now let's put this code. Okay, so it's up to you. You want to type or you want to copy and paste? Let me just copy and paste to make it faster. So by looking at this code, can you understand what does it mean? Check odd event. There is one argument n. So if n, you know what is it? What's it? It is remainder. Namoji. Okay. So 5 remainder 2. The result is 1. 4 remainder 2. The result is 0. Okay. Remainder means what is the remaining value after you divide this value and this value. Okay. So if a number can be divided by 2, then it is even number. If it is not, then it is odd number. Okay, so that's the meaning by this one. Now, I have this odd even.py. Let's create something in the Jupyter Lab. So in the Jupyter Lab, I let me just okay. Let me just continue here. Now I need to import. Okay, so what does it mean by import? I want to get files from folders, maybe from this folder, or maybe from another folder, or maybe from another library, and etc. So I have a new file which is odd event. So I would like to import from odd event. So when it is working well, then I would like to do something with the odd event.py. So in the odd event.py, you can see there is one function. The function name is check odd event. So this is the function name, check odd event. Then I need to do something. If I want to do with odd event, and then if I do the tab, then you will see there's one function, check odd event. Then I will check what is the number. Let's say 5. Okay. Then if I run, okay, the result is 4. 5 cannot be divided by 2. Then it is 4. Now, let me just call another possible number. Check post event. Let's say I want to see what about 4. So 4 is even number. In this case, yeah, you can create your own Python file. You don't need to rely on the Jupyter Lab. And then after that, you can import into the Jupyter Lab. Okay. The other alternative, we can use the object oriented. Okay. So what does it mean by the object oriented? So I already have the import. And then I want to make the object. Let's say I have the O1. O1 is an object, and this O1 is from the odd event. Check odd event. So I create an object O1, and when I call O1, I can put any argument. Let's say I want to see 45. What is 45? Is it an odd or even number? It is odd number. Then the result will show odd. Because you already create an object, and this object belongs to the file of Python in odd event and belongs to the function check odd event. So you can just call O1 and put any numbers to check the odd or even. Odd even 44. Then it is even number. Okay. Um, I give you the a file. Okay. The file name is credit card. So in the credit card file, there are 5 data members and there are 7 methods. So 5 data members. So this is the class name credit card. 5 data members, customer, bank, account balance limit. And there are seven methods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is the explanation for each of the class for the each of the data members and the method. We can do the init or the constructor. So how many arguments do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 4 arguments. And then for each of these arguments, we will create a variable here. Customer, bank, account, limit, and balance issue. And then for each of the variable, we can see the method. So get customer self. So I want to see what is the customer name. Get bank self. I want to see what is the bank name. Get account. So I want to know the account name. Get limit. So I want to know the limit of the credit card. Balance. So I want to know the balance of the credit card. Charts. So we have one argument. So whenever we have if we want to we want to pay with credit card, we need to check the price. So if the price plus the balance is greater than the limit, it means you have the limit for a credit card undo. Okay, so let's say you cannot exceed more than Osimanon. Then if the price plus the balance is more than Osimanon, then return false. It means you cannot pay with credit. Otherwise, just increase the balance plus the price. If it is okay, then it is true. The other is to make the payment. So how many money you want to do the payment for the credit card? So if you already pay the credit card, then the balance will be decreased. Okay, so that's the definition of the book. So let me have one more minute. So you can see from the credit card. So this is the credit card. And you can see this is a main method. I think I need more time to explain this one. Okay, then you can see the code first, okay, the credit card code, and then we will discuss the details on Wednesday. Okay, so I will stop and